Hey there, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I'm Ramsey Dean, a licensed therapist, and on this channel, we explore how our past experiences shape our emotional health. Today, we're diving into childhood emotional neglect and its impact on our daily lives. We'll discuss why emotional neglect can be more harmful than abuse and how it shows up in our adult relationships. First, a quick definition. Childhood emotional neglect is when parents or caregivers consistently fail to acknowledge, respond to, or validate a child's emotional needs. So what might this look like day to day? Imagine a child comes home excited about a good grade, but the parent doesn't look up from their phone and just mumbles, "That's nice." Or a child is visibly upset about being bullied at school, retreats to their bedroom crying, and the parent doesn't check on them. Or a child expresses fear about a school presentation and the parent dismisses their fear, saying, "Don't be silly, you'll be fine." If you're a parent, you know it's impossible to be emotionally available 100% of the time. One-off instances aren't necessarily a concern, but chronic and consistent neglect is. Now let's talk about why emotional neglect can be more harmful than abuse. First, it's subtle and often goes unnoticed. Abuse is clear and identifiable, but emotional neglect is about what's missing. Most kids who are emotionally neglected don't realize it until they're adults dealing with its consequences. Society often overlooks the emotional needs of children, so they usually don't get the help they need. This invisibility makes it even more insidious because the damage is internal and often goes untreated. Second, emotional neglect is chronic. It's consistent over time, affecting critical developmental stages. This stunts emotional development, leading to issues with emotion regulation and self-worth. A child who feels their emotions are unimportant learns to suppress their feelings, creating adults who struggle to recognize and value their own emotions and the emotions of others. This chronic neglect undermines the foundation needed in order to live a healthy emotional life as an adult. Third, emotional neglect teaches children that their feelings are unimportant. This can lead to emotional numbness and difficulties in recognizing and validating emotions in adulthood. In relationships, this lack of emotional awareness can cause misunderstandings and a lack of deep, meaningful connections. Adults who suffered emotional neglect as kids might also struggle with chronic emotion dysregulation. This might look like intense reactions to stress, impulsive behaviors, trouble maintaining relationships, and low stress tolerance. These challenges can significantly impact one's ability to form and maintain healthy, fulfilling relationships. Now that we understand some of the reasons why emotional neglect is so harmful to our well-being, let's delve deeper into how emotional neglect shows up in our adult relationships. Here are 10 ways it manifests. First, difficulty expressing emotions. Adults who were emotionally neglected as children often struggle to express their feelings because they learned early on that their emotions don't matter. In a relationship, this might look like being unable to tell your partner when you're upset or afraid. For example, you might have had a tough day at work and feel really stressed, but instead of talking about it, you keep it to yourself because you don't want to burden your partner. Over time, this can lead to emotional distance between you and your partner because they don't understand what you're going through or how you're feeling. This lack of communication can erode the foundation of trust and intimacy in a relationship. Second, an intense need for validation. Because emotionally neglected children didn't receive the validation they needed, they often grew up needing constant reassurance. In a relationship, this can manifest as frequently asking your partner if they love you or if they're happy with you. For instance, you might constantly seek reassurance, asking questions like, "Do you still love me?" or "Are you sure you're not mad at me?" This can put a strain on the relationship because your partner may feel that their words are never enough to make you feel secure. This need for validation stems from a deep-seated insecurity and a lack of internal self-worth. Third, fear of intimacy. Emotional neglect can make it hard to trust others and to let them in. If your emotional needs were consistently unmet, you might have learned to rely on only yourself. In a relationship, this can look like keeping your partner at a distance, avoiding deep conversations, or being uncomfortable with closeness and vulnerability. For example, you might avoid talking about your past or your fears because you're afraid your partner will judge you or won't understand. This can lead to a lack of deep connection and intimacy in the relationship. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and if you were taught that your feelings were unimportant, being vulnerable can feel incredibly unsafe. Fourth, difficulty relying on others. If you were emotionally neglected, you might have grown up believing you can't depend on anyone but yourself. In a relationship, this could mean you don't ask for help when you need it, or you have trouble accepting help when it's offered. For example, you might insist on handling all your problems alone, even when your partner wants to support you, which can make them feel shut out. This self-reliance can lead to isolation and a feeling of being unsupported, even in a partnership. Fifth, emotional numbness. To cope with the lack of emotional support in childhood, you might have learned to shut down your emotions in a relationship. This can manifest as being emotionally unavailable or distant. Your partner might feel like they can't reach you or that you're not fully present in the relationship, leading to feelings of isolation and frustration. This emotional numbness can be a defense mechanism to avoid the pain of unmet emotional needs, but it can also prevent you from experiencing joy and connection. 6. Conflict avoidance. If you were taught that your emotions weren't important, you might avoid conflict to keep the peace. In a relationship, this can look like not speaking up when something bothers you or going along with whatever your partner wants to avoid an argument. Over time, this can lead to resentment and unresolved issues that undermine the relationship. Avoiding conflict prevents healthy communication and the resolution of issues, leading to a buildup of unaddressed grievances. 7th, low self-esteem. Emotional neglect can leave you with a deep-seated belief that you're not good enough. In a relationship, this might mean you constantly doubt your partner's love or question why they're with you. You might need frequent reassurance and feel insecure about your worth, which can put a strain on your relationship. Low self-esteem can also lead to self-sabotage, where you might push your partner away or create conflict because you don't feel deserving of their love. 8th, people-pleasing tendencies. To gain the validation you didn't get in childhood, you might have learned to prioritize others' needs over your own. In a relationship, this can look like always putting your partner first and neglecting your own needs and desires. While this might seem selfless, it can lead to burnout and a loss of your own identity, making the relationship unbalanced. People-pleasing can create a dynamic where your needs are consistently unmet, leading to resentment and a sense of being unfulfilled. 9th, difficulty setting boundaries. If your emotional needs were ignored, you might not have learned how to set healthy boundaries. In a relationship, this can mean you let your partner overstep your limits, or you might have trouble respecting their boundaries. For example, you might struggle to say no or feel guilty about asserting your needs, leading to an unhealthy dynamic. Healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining a sense of self and ensuring that both partners' needs are met. 10th, fear of abandonment. Emotional neglect can leave you feeling insecure about your place in relationships. You might constantly worry that your partner will leave you or that you're not enough to keep them happy. This fear can lead to clingy or controlling behavior as you try to hold on to the relationship out of fear of being abandoned. This fear can create a cycle of anxiety and behaviors that push your partner away, ironically creating the very outcome you fear. So what can you do to start healing from childhood emotional neglect and its impact on your adult relationships? Here are 10 tips. First, consider seeking therapy. A therapist can help you understand and process your past experiences and how they're affecting your present. Therapy can provide a safe space to explore your emotions, learn healthy coping mechanisms, and develop strategies to improve relationships. Techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, dialectical behavior therapy or DBT, and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing or EMDR can be particularly effective. Second, work on building self-awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in your relationships. Notice when you're engaging in patterns that might be rooted in emotional neglect, such as avoiding conflict or seeking constant validation. Journaling can be a helpful tool for this self-reflection as well. Third, practice self-compassion. It's important to be kind to yourself as you navigate the healing process. Recognize that the patterns you're trying to change developed as a way to cope with your past experiences. Treat yourself with the same compassion and understanding you would offer a friend in a similar situation. Fourth, focus on building healthy relationships. Surround yourself with people who are supportive, understanding, and validating. Healthy relationships can provide a corrective emotional experience, helping you learn that your feelings are important and that you deserve to have your emotional needs met. Fifth, work on developing emotional literacy. This means learning to identify, understand, and express your emotions. One way to start is by practicing naming your emotions throughout the day. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And try to label the emotion. This simple exercise can help you become more aware of your emotional states. Sixth, set realistic goals for yourself. Healing from emotional neglect is a process, and it's important to be patient and realistic about your progress. Set small, achievable goals and celebrate your successes along the way. For example, aim to express your feelings to a trusted friend or partner once a week and acknowledge the courage it takes to do so. Seventh, consider joining a support group. Connecting with others who have had similar experiences can provide validation, support, and a sense of community. Support groups can offer a space to share your struggles and successes with people who understand what you're going through. Eighth, Work on developing healthy boundaries. Learn to say no and assert your needs in a respectful and effective way. Start by identifying one area where you need to set a boundary and practice clearly communicating it. Start small by identifying one area where you need to set a boundary and practice communicating it clearly. For example, if you need time alone to recharge, let your partner know and schedule regular me time. Ninth, practice mindfulness. Mindfulness can help you stay present and grounded, reducing the impact of emotional triggers and increasing your ability to manage stress. You can start with simple practices like deep breathing exercises. Take a few minutes each day to focus on your breath, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly to help calm your mind and body. If you're new to mindfulness and don't know where to start, I have a beginner's guide to mindfulness on my channel I will link down below for you to check out. 10th, engage in self-care. Take care of your physical, emotional, and mental health by engaging in activities that nourish and replenish you. This might include exercise, hobbies, spending time in nature, or simply taking time to relax and unwind. Now, I know self-care is a buzzword, everybody uses it, and it can be hard to implement in practice. But the reason I bring it up is because adults who were emotionally neglected as children tend to struggle with poor emotion regulation skills. And when our basic self-care needs are not met, this makes us more vulnerable to our emotions and puts us at greater risk for getting dysregulated and engaging in behaviors that we don't want. For example, if you've ever been hangry before or angry because of your hunger, this is a perfect example of how neglecting our self-care makes us more vulnerable to our emotions. A good place to start if you want to lower your risk for being vulnerable to your emotions is the HALT acronym. It stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Next time you're feeling like you are in emotion mind, pause for a moment and ask yourself, have I met my HALT needs today? The more you do this, you might be surprised how often you're able to link your emotion dysregulation with an unmet HALT need. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments how you notice emotional neglect showing up for you in your life. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.